This happened a few weeks ago. I'm Lucas, 32, a farmhand who never knew anything else. After my father passed last year, I felt crushed under the weight of all he left behind. The maintenance on the farm was endless. I worked long hours, sweating under the sun and feeling the weight of every cornstalk. I didn't know how I could keep this up. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. One evening, as the sun dipped low and turned the sky red, I was out in the fields. I was tired and desperate. I laughed out loud and jokingly yelled for the devil to give me some strength. I thought it was silly, but it felt like a weight lifted off me. That night, when I went inside, I found my tools arranged neatly by the door. I remembered they had been scattered and rusty all week. I thought maybe my father's spirit was helping me just a bit. In the days that followed, strange things happened. It felt unreal. The crops grew faster than I ever thought possible. One afternoon I picked a few ears of corn, and they were huge. I felt a surge of energy, like I could work for hours without stopping. My friends noticed the change. They could see I was different, but there was something else. There were moments when I thought I saw shadows moving in the fields at night. I brushed it off, telling myself it was nothing but my imagination. Still, a chill ran down my spine. One day, while I worked the same patch where I had called for strength, the air felt heavy. I heard a whisper, but there was no one around. Just the wind, I thought. But my heart raced when I turned around, ready to see something. Nothing was there. The more strength I gained, the darker the nights grew. Shadows became more frequent. I started feeling like they were watching me, like they were waiting for something. My friends noticed it too. They looked at me with worry in their eyes, as if they sensed a darkness spreading. One evening, while I worked by myself, I felt the weight of silence. It was too quiet, and although I tried to shake it off, fear crept in. I glanced up at the sky and back to the rows of corn. My heart pumped in my chest. At the edge of the field, I thought I saw a figure. I blinked, and it was gone. "What was that?" I whispered. Then, clear as day, right behind me, I heard a voice. "Do you still want it?" I turned, hoping to see someone there, but nobody stood behind me. My breath quickened. Now I keep working, but I can't shake this feeling. I don't know where this is leading me. There's something sinister hiding in the shadows of the fields. Every night, I hear that whisper again. What is it that I've really asked for? The next day, I woke up earlier than usual. I couldn't shake the voice from my mind. "Do you still want it?" It replayed over and over. I figured if I put my head down and focused on the work, I could push through. If I kept busy, maybe the shadows would fade. I stepped outside into the cool morning air, but the unease hung over me like a storm cloud. The crops stood tall, lush, and bountiful, but now they looked too green, too alive. I felt a knot in my stomach as I walked towards the fields, every step heavier than the last. While plowing a new section, I glanced over my shoulder. Shadows fluttered behind me. I forced myself to look away, shaking my head. Just the wind, I told myself. Focusing on the lines I was carving through the soil, I tried to block out everything else. That evening, I noticed something odd. The sun was still hanging low, but it cast long, eerie shadows that seemed to stretch beyond their usual length. They moved as if alive, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. My heart raced again. I gripped the plow tighter, pushing myself to finish the row. Then I heard the whisper again, clearer this time. "It is yours, if you want it." My skin crawled. I dropped the plow, unwilling to listen anymore. I had to find answers. I walked into town, hoping to talk to Mary. She was wise and had a feel for things, always knowing when something wasn't right. As I approached her porch, there was something in her eyes that made me hesitate. She looked at me with a mix of concern and fear. "Lucas," she said slowly, "I've been hearing things, unnatural things. You need to be careful." "Mary, I replied, a chill gripping my spine. Something's happening on the farm. It feels like something is watching me. She nodded, her gaze growing serious. I've seen shadows at night, not just in the fields but creeping around your home too. People have talked about voices in the dark. I felt a wall of anxiety closing in. I thought I was alone, that I could manage the oddities. But here was someone confirming my fears. What do I do? I asked. Mary took a deep breath, her voice tight. You must confront it. Face what you asked for. Face it. The idea alone terrified me. I knew deep down that I had dabbled in something beyond my understanding. How could I confront shadows that whispered my name? As I turned to leave, desperation clawed at me. I had to know more. That night, I decided to return to the fields, armed with the courage I barely felt. I needed answers, and the whispers promised something I was afraid to fully seize. When I reached the edge of the cornfield, the air felt charged, heavy with anticipation. I took a deep breath, ready to call out. What do you want from me? I shouted into the darkness. And then everything went dark. I stumbled, my breath hitching in my throat as the darkness enveloped me. I blinked, trying to find something familiar, some outline of the corn rows I had just been standing in. But nothing came. Panic coursed through my veins, drowning out all thought. Hello? I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence swallowed my words. I strained my ears, hoping to catch the whispers I had grown so used to. But all I heard was the rustle of leaves, low and haunting, almost mocking. Then suddenly, a shadow darted past me, swift and low. My heart pounded as I turned, adrenaline surging in my limbs. What are you? I croaked into the suffocating dark, feeling incredibly small in the vastness of the night. Without warning, the darkness parted slightly, revealing a figure standing at the edge of the fields. It was tall, too tall, wrapped in a cloak of shadows, its face obscured. I felt an urge to run, but was rooted in place, my legs refusing to obey. Do you still want it? The voice was deep and smooth, echoing around me, filling me with dread. It was the same voice that haunted my thoughts, but now it felt more real, piercing through my mind instead of just lingering there. What do you want? I shouted, finding a surge of anger to mask my fear. I didn't ask for this. The figure stepped closer, the darkness rippling around it like smoke. You did ask, Lucas. You called for strength, for power. You sought a way to make your farm prosper. The words felt like weights on my chest. I thought it was just a wish, I replied, swallowing hard. I didn't know it would come with this. The figure laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. All power comes with a price. You must decide, Lucas. Embrace it or let go. A mix of determination and fear welled up inside me. I had worked hard for my crops, for my livelihood. Was the whispering darkness the key to protecting it all? Or was it a trap, waiting to ensnare me further? Then I noticed something behind the figure, a flicker of light. It pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger. I squinted, trying to discern what it was. A lantern, or something more sinister. What is that? I yelled over the ringing in my ears. The figure turned slightly, revealing a hint of something more, something alive. It is your choice, Lucas. Follow the light, or be consumed by the dark. The shadows curled around it, tightening. I took a step back, instinctively feeling I was too close to a precipice. What's the light? I asked, my voice shaking. You will find out soon enough, it replied, just before it vanished into the dark, as if it had never been there at all. I was left alone with the flickering glow now illuminating part of the field. With every passing moment, it pulled at me, beckoning like a siren call. I felt the weight of the shadows behind me. The offer still lingered in the air. I knew I had to make a choice, and fast. Compelled by curiosity and fear, I took a step toward the light, my heart racing. That's when I knew, whatever lay ahead, it wouldn't end the way I hoped. I stepped towards the light, my feet moving almost on their own. The glow grew brighter, a warm, inviting beacon in the cold night. My heart raced as I remembered the figure's words. Follow the light. Was I actually going to do it? With each step, the light took form. It was a small orb, floating just above the ground, pulsating gently. I reached out, and as my fingers brushed against it, I felt warmth flood through me. It was unlike anything I'd experienced before, comforting yet charged with energy. But the shadows loomed behind me, whispering my fears. What if this was just another trap? What if the light led me deeper into peril? I hesitated, my mind racing. I was torn between the promise of strength and the darkness that lingered at the corners of my vision. Before I had the chance to decide, the orb surged forward, pulling me along. I stumbled after it, trying to stay grounded in a world that felt more unreal by the second. The shadows flickered around me, crawling along the field as if they were alive, waiting to consume what hope I grasped. "Wait!" I shouted, chasing after the light. It glided across rows of corn, weaving between stalks, leading me away from the path I'd known. The whispers grew louder, echoing my doubts. There was something sinister about this place, something I couldn't quite grasp. Then I saw it. Just ahead, the light hovered over a mound of earth. It pulsed wildly now, as if urging me to approach. I hesitated again, a wave of trepidation washing over me. What was buried beneath the soil? Was it a secret or something I was never meant to uncover? "Please," I called, half to the light, half to the shadows coiling around me. "What do you want from me?" The orb brightened, radiating a warmth that flooded my senses, chasing away the chill of my fear. I found myself kneeling by the mound, compelled by a force I couldn't name. I dug my fingers into the ground, dirt flying as I scraped away the loose soil. That's when I saw it, a small, weathered box, its surface engraved with strange symbols. My breath caught in my throat. I realized it wasn't just an ordinary box. It felt as if it held the weight of secrets and power. Suddenly the wind picked up, howling like a creature in pain. The shadows grew restless, swirling violently around the field, like a storm brewing just for me. I could feel their presence pressing against my back, urging me to turn away. But I didn't want to let go now. I grasped the box tightly, unable to pull myself away. An intense energy surged through me, a mix of fear and anticipation. Then I remembered. The figure had said all power comes with a price. What was this box asking of me? As I lifted it from the ground, the air grew thick. The whispers crescendoed, transforming into laughter, a mocking sound that sent shivers racing down my spine. I wasn't ready for what was to come. In that moment, a realization crashed down on me. Opening the box might unleash something far worse than I had ever imagined. Then, just as I steeled myself to make a decision, a piercing scream cut through the night. It was coming from the farmhouse. I dropped the box, heart pounding, dread washing over me. I couldn't ignore it any longer. Something was terribly wrong. A new urgency clawed at my insides. I had to get back. This was only the beginning. I turned on my heel, my feet pounding against the cold, hard ground as I sprinted toward the farmhouse. Each scream rang out again, sharper this time, twisting my stomach into knots. I pushed myself to run faster, dodging the encroaching shadows that seemed to claw at my heels. The farm was dark, save for the patchy moonlight filtering through the trees. My mind raced as I neared the old house, memories of childhood skipping through my head. It had always felt safe back then. Now, every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down my spine. I burst through the front door, which stood ajar, swinging wildly in the wind. "Hello," I called out, my voice shaky. "Is anyone here?" Silence answered me, thick and suffocating. I scanned the dimly lit room, shadows dancing across the walls. My heart beat loudly in my ears, drowning out the sound of the low wind. I stepped further in, gripping the edge of a table for support. Then, from the corner of my eye, I caught sight of movement. I stepped closer, my breath hitching in my throat. There, on the ground, lay a figure motionless. It was my sister Clara. "Clara!" I rushed to her side, my knees hitting the wooden floor with a thud. Her face was pale, eyes shut tight as if she were trapped in a nightmare. I shook her shoulder gently. "Clara, wake up!" But her eyes remained closed, and the scream I had heard earlier clawed at my memory. Fear twisted my insides. I tried to feel her pulse, but dread clouded my thoughts. She felt cold beneath my fingers. "Please, no," I whispered, panic creeping in. I glanced around the room for help, searching for something, anything that could explain this. Then I saw it. A dark figure loomed in the shadows, standing with arms crossed, a smirk carved onto his face. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. The figure stepped into the light, and my stomach dropped. It was the man from earlier, the one who had whispered to me by the field, a face I somehow recognized but couldn't remember. "Ah, the keeper of the light," he chuckled, his voice smooth yet laced with menace. "Your sister was too slow in her task tonight, but I'm afraid her fate is now intertwined with yours." "What do you mean?" I spat, clenching my fists. He took a step forward, the shadows shifting with him, as if they were alive. "You sought power, did you not? Every choice demands sacrifice." His gaze pierced through me. "You can save her, but you will have to make a deal." I felt that familiar rush of dread. This wasn't what I wanted. "I don't want your kind of power. I just want to protect her." He leaned closer, the smile never leaving his face. "Then you're willing to risk everything? Think carefully. Time is running out." The weight of his words settled in the air like a leaden cloud, suffocating my hopes. I could see Clara's helplessness, a stark reminder of my failure to keep her safe. Suddenly, another scream echoed from outside, pulling my attention. All the while, the figure watched, amused, waiting for me to respond. I had to choose. And as the oppressive atmosphere closed in around me, I realized I was standing at a crossroads, each path dark and uncertain. I had to decide quickly. But which option could truly save her? The urgency clawed at me again. Would I reach for the light, or was the darkness already claiming me? I hesitated, heart racing as the words hung in the air. Outside, another scream shattered the stillness, slicing through my fog of uncertainty. I shook my head, desperate to think straight. "No deals. I won't bargain for her life." The man's smirk faded slightly, annoyance replacing amusement. "You misunderstand the weight of your choices, my dear." He gestured toward Clara. "With her time slipping away, you ought to reconsider." That scream was a warning. They're coming. "Who's coming?" I barely choked out, dread pooling in my gut. The shadows behind him lurked closer, hungry and restless. He tilted his head, studying me like I was an insect under glass. "Those who seek what you desire. You can remain defenseless or take the power I offer. Either way." He leaned closer, his voice dropped to a frightening whisper. "The darkness will claim you." I looked back at Clara. Her stillness felt like a ticking clock, every second laden with dread. I couldn't just stand there. I dove for my sister, shaking her again with urgency. "Clara, wake up, please." But she remained unresponsive, as if she were trapped in some deep, endless sleep. I could feel tears stinging my eyes. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were supposed to be together, safe from all of this. The man's laughter broke through my despair. "Time to make your choice. Remember, every light needs darkness to shine." That's when I noticed something glinting beneath Clara's hand, I shifted closer, brushing the dust away to reveal a small charm, intricately carved into a spiral. It pulsed with a warm light, contrasting the menacing darkness that encircled us. "Clara," I whispered, pulling it from her grasp. As I held the charm, warmth flooded my fingertips, illuminating the shadows briefly. The man's expression soured, but he quickly masked it with a sly grin. "Ah, so you want to play with forces you don't fully comprehend. I see you've found her talisman," he taunted, "but it will not be enough. Power is a currency, and it demands its due." I faced him, clutching the charm like a lifeline. "And what is your due?" He straightened up, and his voice took on an ominous tone. "Your sister can awaken, but you will be the one to pay. Are you ready to become what you fear, the very thing you fought against?" Another scream, closer this time, rattled the walls of the house. I could hear footsteps nearby, echoing the panic buzzing in my veins. I had gotten deeper than I intended, and escape was fading fast. With the darkness creeping closer, it felt like every breath was a countdown. I had to act, either to barter for her life or choose an uncertain power that could change everything. "Make your choice," he urged, eyes glinting with predatory interest. In that moment, with the looming threat at my back and Clara's life at stake, I had to decide. Would I step into the darkness, or cling to the hope of light? Before I could think further, the door creaked, and I heard another voice call out, distant yet urgent. "Help! Let me in!" I turned toward the sound, heart pounding. It could be a friend, or it could be another nightmare waiting at our doorstep. Whatever it was, I knew I couldn't stand there forever. "Clara, please!" I cried, desperation surging within me. But as I reached for the door, the darkness shuddered, ready to strike. I swung open the door with a sudden burst of hope. A figure stumbled inside, breathless and wide-eyed. I saw them coming. I barely escaped. It was a young man, his clothes torn and dirt-smeared, but there was something familiar about him. I took a step back, instinctively trying to aid, but my focus was still on Clara. "What do you mean? Who's coming?" I pressed, urgency flooding my voice. "Dark figures," he gasped, glancing over his shoulder as if afraid they could creep in on us. "They hunt for those who stand against them. You have to hide." The man beside me chuckled, a sharp sound that did nothing to ease the rising tension. "You see, they've come for you too." He stepped closer. "You have no idea what you're facing." I blocked out his words, the weight of the charm still warm in my hand. "Clara," I turned back to her, shaking her gently again. "You have to wake up." The young man knelt beside me, his hands hovering over Clara's limp form. "What happened to her?" "She's trapped," I said, dread nesting uncomfortably in my chest. The footsteps outside grew louder, mingling with the howling wind. "I can't just leave her." "It might be too late," he said, his voice laced with fear. "We have to move now. The talisman, it's not just a charm, it's a beacon. If you don't change your mind, they will come for her." The shadows in the room seemed to thicken, almost quivering at the young man's words. I felt a tug of disbelief. "What do you mean? What does that even mean?" Without waiting for an answer, I glanced back at the door. "What are they? And what?" Suddenly, the man beside Clara stepped into the light. "I can help you, but only if you choose to accept your new power. The symbol you hold can protect her, but it demands a price." The young man whipped around, his eyes blazing with anger. "You, don't listen to him. He'll twist your heart into something unrecognizable. Clara's life is at risk." The two men glared at each other, and I felt the tension crackle. I had never wanted anyone's help more, but which one of them held the truth? Time was running out, and Clara's breath was shallow. I looked back at Clara, desperation gripping me. If I accepted the man's offer, what might that mean for my sister? Could I bear the weight of what I might become? The shadows beyond the door rolled closer, an insatiable wave meeting the threshold. My heart raced as I heard them whispering, their voices a haunting chorus. Choose, the sinister man urged, eyes glinting with eager anticipation. I bit my lip, bringing the warm charm closer to Clara's hand. If I could only wake her, I could figure things out. Surrender, or fight back. I needed to make a choice, and soon. Then I realized something I hadn't before. The talisman was not just Clara's. It was ours, a connection forged through the years. It could hold the key to protect her. Maybe there's another way, I murmured, tapping the charm against her palm. The shadows recoiled, hesitating as if sensing the shift. But would it be enough to save her? With one last look at the darkened door, I took a breath and began to speak. I'll take the risk, but only if it means Clara wakes. The room shuddered and the air thickened with tension. I could feel the eyes of the darkness on me, waiting for my next move. As those words left my lips, a surge of energy prickled through the air. The charm in my hand began to glow, casting a soft light that pushed back the shadows surrounding us. I could hear the whispers becoming frustrated, the dark figures beyond the door recoiling as if they feared the brightness. The man beside Clara took a cautious step back. You've made your choice, then. But be mindful of the price you'll pay. His voice was low, laced with both warning and awe. What does that mean? I asked, trying to keep my focus sharp despite the rush of power bubbling inside me. It felt alive, like a heartbeat quickening in sync with my own. Clara lay there, unmoving, and I couldn't shake the surge of desperation. Focus on her, the young man urged. Concentrate on bringing her back. The charm needs your intention. I nodded, feeling the warm light radiating through my fingers as I pressed the symbol against Clara's palm. Please, Clara, come back to me. My voice broke, shaking with all the fear of losing her. The moment the charm touched her skin, a force like a shockwave rippled through the room. I braced myself, half expecting to be thrown back, but instead, it felt as if time held its breath. Clara's body stirred slightly, a flicker of life igniting in her chest. But just then, shrieks echoed from the darkness beyond the door. It was a sound that clawed at my heart, filled with rage and hunger. You cannot keep her, the malicious voice intoned. You've invited us in. Before I could react, the door burst open, slamming against the wall with a violent force. Shadows poured into the room, dark figures emerging from the void, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. They were the very embodiment of the fear that had haunted me, swirling around like a storm ready to swallow everything whole. Get back, I shouted, raising the charm high, feeling its energy surge as I defiantly stood between them and Clara. The brightness intensified, casting long, flickering shadows upon the walls. Foolish children, one of the figures hissed, its voice layered with countless others. You think you can harness light against the darkness? You've awakened our wrath. I felt a crack in my confidence, the familiar weight of doubt creeping back in. The man beside me gripped my shoulder. You can't let them overwhelm you. You have the power. You just need to believe it. Belief. How could I believe when panic threatened to swallow me whole? Then I looked back at Clara, lying so still. I couldn't fail her now. The shadows rushed toward us, eager to snuff out our light. I closed my eyes, focusing fiercely on the connection between Clara and me. It was all about love and protection. Stay away from her, I yelled, channeling everything I felt into the charm. As I opened my eyes, the light erupted in a brilliant flash, illuminating the room like the dawn. The shadows recoiled, hissed, and drew back, their faces contorting in rage. But then, amidst the chaos, I felt a sudden shift. The price, the dark figures rasped, their voices simmering. Remember this moment when your heart weighs heavy, for there is always a cost. And in that instant, I saw something in Clara's expression, an awakening, a flicker of recognition. Clara! I reached out as she stirred, the darkness retreating momentarily. but a new realization hit me like ice water. Whatever price I would pay was only beginning to unfold. And that chilling thought clung to me as I faced both the dark figures and the uncertain fate of my sister. Would I still be able to save her before darkness reclaimed us all? The moment Clara's eyes flickered open, the dark figures shrieked in unison, their fury crashing against our bright barrier. "You're only delaying the inevitable," one screamed, deep and thunderous. "Clara." I rushed to her, kneeling beside her still form. Her gaze met mine, wide and lost. "Stay with me, please." The young man next to me focused on the figures, his own light flickering slightly as he met their intensity. "We need to hurry. We can't let them have her back." I grasped Clara's hand, squeezing it tightly. The warmth of her skin sent a surge of hope through me. "Clara, do you hear me? You need to fight. You're stronger than this." Her eyelids fluttered as if she was fighting against some unseen weight. The dark figures hissed in anticipation, their shapes shifting and swirling like smoke. I took a deep breath, feeling the charm tightening in my grip. "Get behind me," I shouted as I stood, forcing the light to pulse brighter. "You will not take her." But as I did, I felt something give way inside me. A rush of cold washed over my soul, dropping my heart like a stone. The room dimmed, and for a split second, I felt the charm's energy wane. My stomach dropped. Had I overstepped? "Fool!" One of the shadows laughed, a sound like shattering glass. "You are weakening. The price must be paid." Suddenly, Clara's grip tightened on my hand and she pulled herself up slightly. "I can feel them, Alex," she whispered, her voice hoarse but filled with sudden clarity. "They're feeding off your fear. You have to believe we can beat them. Together." Seeing that flicker of strength in her eyes ignited something in me, an ember of resistance. "You're right, Clara. I won't let them take you." With every ounce of courage, I focused on the light pouring from the charm, pushing my fears aside. "Light," I commanded, pouring in memories of laughter, of sunny days in the park, and the bond we shared as siblings. The energy surged again, stronger, as if it were fueled by our shared love. The shadows writhed and twisted, their eyes narrowing with rage. "You defy us. You will pay, ignorant child." They lunged forward, attempting to break through our barrier. Suddenly, Clara's eyes sparkled with determination. "Hold on, I'm coming with you," she announced, her voice rising. She squeezed my hand and whispered a word I couldn't make out. The moment she did, I felt a tremendous force erupt from the charm, mixing our energies. A blinding light enveloped us, radiating pure warmth and hope. But the figures, now a storm of malevolent fury, shrieked even louder. "What have you done?" they howled, their forms blurring under the onslaught of our combined strength. Then, amidst our light and their darkness, I noticed a strange shimmer in the air, like a veil pulled back. I was jolted by the realization. The very ground around us began to tremble, and I felt not just ours, but another presence. Something ancient and powerful, awakening in response. That's when I saw it. A doorway, formed of swirling light and shadows, right behind the dark figures. It felt like the edge of another world, a chasm where both danger and escape lay in wait. The thought crossed my mind. If this was an escape route, what waited on the other side? Would it lead us to salvation or deeper darkness? "Clara!" I yelled, feeling the pull of that door. "We have to decide." But in the chaos, the dark figures lunged again, and I knew time was running out. I was left with one question. Would we step into the unknown together, or would fear chain us to this cursed room forever? Together we stood at the precipice of light and shadow, the walls of our reality trembling, the figures of darkness swirling like a tempest. Clara squeezed my hand tightly, our connection coursing with fierce determination. "We have to trust each other, Lucas. There's power in what we share." The shadows loomed closer, their voices now a cacophony of anger and despair. "Defy us and suffer," they screamed, the air thick with dread. But an undeniable warmth pulsed from the charm, our combined light pushing against the encroaching darkness. I felt an ache in my heart, a reckless need to protect my sister at all costs. "What's on the other side?" I shouted into the chaos, my voice almost lost amid the storm. "Can we get away from them?" "I don't know," Clara shouted back, her eyes ablaze with conviction. "But we can't stay here. We'll lose everything." The shadows hissed, each word cutting like ice. They didn't just threaten Clara's life, they wanted to consume our shared memories, our bond. I couldn't let that happen. The thought of losing her sent my heart racing. They'd already claimed too much. "Together, remember?" I said, focusing on Clara's frightened yet determined face. "Now!" In that moment, we let go of our fears and took a step toward the shimmer of light. The dark figures lunged, a frantic attempt to reclaim us. But as we advanced, the brightness enveloped us, the charm blazing like the sun, illuminating everything around. Suddenly, the figures screamed in unison, their forms flickering as they tried to hold on to us. "You cannot escape your fate," one shrieked, its voice a blend of anguish and fury. But we weren't just fleeing, we were embracing a new possibility. I could feel the power surging through the charm, radiating not just in light but in love. Love for my sister, for the life we had built. With each step towards the doorway, the gravitational pull toward the light intensified, and the darkness began to fracture, their cries becoming distant. Then we leapt into the swirling void together. As we crossed the threshold, I felt an electric pulse surge through me. Reality crashed into the unfamiliar as we landed, not on solid ground but within a weightless expanse, colors swirling around us like uncontained dreams. I searched for Clara, suddenly terrified that I'd lost her in the shift. "Lucas?" she called, her voice sounding as if it floated through water, clear yet distant. I turned, panic flooding my system until I saw her floating nearby, her expression alive with the thrill of possibility. "I'm here!" I shouted, reaching for her. The pulse of energy wrapped around us, a visceral connectiveness like nothing I'd felt before. But in the depths of this vibrant world, shadows still lurked. Whispers met our ears like a soft wind. "You may have escaped," they taunted, "but you've merely delayed the inevitable. Power always claims a price." "We'll face it together," Clara shouted, her voice ringing with bravery. "Whatever the cost, we'll pay it." As uncertainty buzzed in the air around us like the charge before a storm, I clung to that belief. We had chosen to leap into the unknown, and I knew that regardless of what awaited, the power of our bond would guide us through. In that moment, a fleeting realization washed over me. Though our immediate danger was gone, the whispers promised that darkness would always search for the light we had chosen. Whatever supernatural force was at hand, there were no clear answers, no guarantees of safety, just the weight of our decisions driving us towards something new. And as we floated, ready to explore this enigmatic expanse, I realized the true adventure was just beginning. The shadows might still be lying in wait, but they had lost for now. The question was, what would we become in our quest to find an answer? Together, we would discover that too.